going to read from an essay. It's in the first issue. It's really long, so I've kind of cut it up, and I'm just going to read sections of it. It's called "The Brain is a Woolly Beast." The woman seated in the neurologist's office is here for two reasons. The first of which is that the woman has implicated herself as a victim of brain deterioration, which she believes to be either, one, remnants of a head injury from a car accident in 1987, two, an inherited handicap involving left brain, right brain malfunctioning, or three, a high sugar diet combined with middle age and a tendency towards alcohol overuse. In either case, the neurologist, having viewed the now antiquated x-rays from the MRI circa 1987, has ordered tests to be administered in the event that the memory problems the woman has reported are in fact a result of a prior head injury. Since there is no way to actually prove that the inherited handicap the woman speaks of is not simply a psychosocial issue, i.e. that members of her family weren't representatives of outstanding mental capacity or a Noam Chomsky-like facility with language and intellectual prowess, which the woman seems to believe she once had a shot at, despite any tangible evidence to support this. The woman would be wise to have prepared herself for a considerable range of outcomes. The examining doctor assigned to the 1987 incident had only offered the woman a vague prognosis, something like, "You're probably going to have memory problems as you get older," which most of us know we don't need a doctor to tell us. And the non-specific nature of the doctor's conclusions laid the groundwork for the woman's ongoing affiliation with anxiety and the burgeoning fear that she might one day wake up and find herself a character in a daytime television drama with a sudden case of amnesia. Or worse, a person who forgets what she's talking about in the middle of a sentence. An additional point to consider is anxiety's relationship to depression and the chicken and egg dilemma it presents. Does anxiety lead to depression, which can then lead to atrophy in specific areas of the brain, or does a genetic predisposition for depression combined with the atrophic effects of a head injury increase the likelihood of debilitating anxiety? The brain is a woolly beast. So I'm going to skip over a section and go straight. There's a section about having a brain scan, and it's all very interesting, but I'm going to skip on. I'm sure all of you have had brain scans done, and you know what I'm talking about. The body's reaction to sudden contact. Perched on the exam table, the woman's feet dangle like marionettes controlled by the knees. The neurologist taps each of them with a reflex hammer, a tomahawk-like instrument used for measuring the body's reaction to sudden contact. He shoots a beam of light into the woman's eyes and asks her to follow his finger as it moves toward and away from his face, then up and down, left and right, like he is making the sign of the cross. The woman is also asked to perform a series of physical tasks, the first of which is to stand balanced on one leg in what looks like a yoga posture, more skittish flamingo than tree pose. The woman engages in unnecessary chatter, dispersing wisecracks, which have become tics she has little control of anymore, and are likely to surface in situations that cause agitation. In this case, the neurologist's face makes her nervous. Making the appointment over the phone, the woman imagines someone old, closing in on retirement with splotchy skin and cranky hair, and not the young and handsome man standing in front of her, making her feel self-conscious and frumpy. She thinks this would have been a good day to wear socks that match. "I have to ask you some questions," he says as the two sit down at his desk. "I'm sorry if they are insulting." There's a hint of German in his voice, big consonants and throaty tones that stand up straight. Perhaps he is Austrian, the woman thinks, and drives a German car. She wonders if this is some kind of a test to measure a person's response to various put-downs. Will she be combative and disrespectful, or apologetic and contrite? Will she grow indignant and want to leave the office? It's a strange practice, neurology. Snake oils and Ouija board scans and insult centers. The questions, however, are routine, designed to evaluate memory, comprehension, and mental status. The woman likes the phrase mental status because of its neutral and unassuming tone. How is your mental status this afternoon? Due to my mental status, I won't be able to make it in to work today. Can you tell me what year it is? It's 2009. And who is the President of the United States? Before answering the question, the woman makes a sarcastic remark about the end of the Bush years. While the woman knows that there is nothing funny about a malfunctioning brain or a faulty nervous system, she is unable to override the urge to amuse the neurologist, who, one might have guessed by now, has far more troubling cases to attend to. Carbon monoxide, cellular machinery, and chronic negative thinking. Can you tell me what the date is today? The obnoxiously young doctor asks. The woman responds with an unsettling half-laugh that buys her a few seconds to come up with an answer. As it turns out, she can't remember the date. In her head, she draws a mind picture in an effort to see the words as they might appear on a form, or on the red and white calendar icon that provides this useful information on her smartphone. Her eyes travel up and to the left, a physical indication the brain is attempting to retrieve visual memories or pictures. The eyes move down and to the right to connect with feelings. Up and to the right might indicate that a person is lying. If she were writing a check in the presence of a receptionist, she would simply ask what the date was, and it wouldn't be a big deal. But on this occasion, she is distracted by the neurologist's eyes, dexterous and green with shards of brown, and stuck trying to add 4 days to Monday, the last date she remembers. A Sesame Street whirl of numbers and symbols appear, and the fetching German doctor is now a wall of expectation, a niggling face with solicitous hazel eyes and unjustly thick eyelashes. And the woman wonders why he can't simply move on to something else and stop making her feel stupid. She wipes her sweaty hands on her jeans and apologizes. I tell you what, he says, I'm going to leave the room, and when I get back, you can tell me what the date is. Left alone, the woman's overwrought imagination becomes burdensome. She pictures him in the hallway, watching her on a video monitor as she fiddles with her smartphone. The patient displays the kind of chronic memory deficit consistent with traumatic brain injury, he says to his eager intern, which will only get worse as she ages. By the time she's 50, she won't be able to tell a 1099 from a taqueria menu. In each act of forgetfulness, the woman is unable to distinguish between her panic and the information she is attempting to recover, and is less likely to recognize these transactions as performance anxiety, and more likely to feel herself sucked into a tornado of emptiness that proves she's irreversibly damaged. It is now understood that carbon monoxide, pesticides, chronic negative thinking, junk food, cleaning solvents, those adolescent Disney sitcoms with mind-numbing laugh tracks, stress, and cocaine all cause brain damage. SpongeBob and video games can damage the developing brain. Alcohol disrupts the cellular machinery that controls the ability to form new memories. The neurologist returns in his white lab coat and shiny Italian shoes. It's the 23rd. 1983 four-door Honda Civic. The woman had been driving a 1983 four-door Honda Civic to her parents' house to do laundry when she was broadsided by a speeding car. It was later discovered that the offending driver was an employee of the hospital the woman awoke in after being unconscious for nearly 8 hours. Rushing to work, the driver had run a red light. The woman in the 1983 four-door Honda Civic has no memory of anything that took place the morning of the accident in December of 1987. The experience begins in the hospital. A nurse with a downy voice shining a bright light into her right eye, casually peering into her soul, asking if she knows what has happened to her. She remembers feeling peaceful, well-rested, unafraid, as if she were lying on a warm patch of earth under a tender blanket. No other details, the blow to the cervical spine, being dragged from the car, bleeding from the head, had lodged themselves in her consciousness. Just a few questions. Did the employee of the hospital who ran the red light and slammed into her car complete her shift at work? Had she checked up on the injured woman out of some sense of guilt or remorse? Would it have killed her to spend $8 at the laundromat down the street from her apartment instead of traveling all the way across town to her parents' house? Intricate patterns, a gray spot, and the area of concern. Now that the pop quizzes are over, the woman and the striking neurologist are seated next to each other at a small desk facing a drably designed computer. The neurologist indulges the woman in his enthusiasm for the newly acquired neuroimaging software, which provides optimal viewing of the structure of the brain and has a greater capacity for accurately assessing head trauma. The ability to quickly zoom in and out of view, lateral, anterior, posterior, is exciting for the neurologist and somewhat fascinating to the woman. Cerebral cortex, frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, the sinus buildup on the left nasal cavity, always good to know. The eye sockets empty and skeletal, a stark reminder of the fact that we are made of bones. The vantage point is remarkable. Together they examine the asymmetry of the temporal horns and the hippocampi, the two seahorse-shaped ventricles responsible for spatial navigation and for short-term and long-term memory, mostly the right one, which in comparison to the left is atrophic. Atrophy of the hippocampus is recognized in people with major depression and oddly with those who have undergone a life-changing religious experience, which it appears the woman has not. After the initial excitement wanes, the conversation slows, and the handsome neurologist pulls a pen from his coat pocket and points to a spot on the screen. It is a gray spot, no larger than a dime. He refers to it as the area of concern. I'm going to stop there.